All right, ladies and gentlemen, the American Jury and Bulldog Nation, welcome to the Eric Deters Podcast. We premiered it Monday. We did Tuesday. Remember, we're going Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. I got a scheduling issue on Thursday and Friday. I'm just not going to do it. So because I don't do it Thursday, I'm not going to do it on Friday. If I did Thursday, I'd do Friday as well. Today is Boss's Day. Have you asked your boss or told your boss how wonderful or how bad they suck, depending on how you feel about that? Last night, have you seen this movie yet? It's out on Prime. I watch it on Prime. It's also at the theater. But Reagan, I'm telling you, I give it 5 stars. They hit it out of the park. Dennis Quaid nails Reagan. Boy, they casted well for it. And they tell the whole Reagan story with like one scene acts based on the issues, sometimes two. But it's amazing. I mean, they covered all of that material and covered it well all the way up to the end of his life in an amazing fashion. And it reminds you of what we need in the presidency, which is a strong, smart, intelligent, America first kind of guy. For anybody who thinks that Ronald Reagan wouldn't like Trump, he may not like Trump's style because Reagan was kind of a gentleman kind of guy. But Ronald Reagan was not an establishment candidate. He ran against Bush, the establishment candidate. He ran against Ford, the establishment candidate. This guy was not establishment. And Ronald Reagan was a great president. He said 2 things. You're supposed to help Americans be prosperous and keep Americans safe. If that's the case, look how Joe Biden has performed in office. I mean, it truly sums it all up. There are some great lines. I mean, all the lines, like when he got shot, he said, "I hope you're all Republicans." The line with Mondale. I mean, they covered all the highlights of Reagan's life. But there was one quote that I thought was really neat. And he honed his skills by giving countless speeches for General Electric and others. Is he said, "Clarity is power." And I'm thinking, boy, is that not true. It's true in law. It's true in politics. It's true in life. It's true in business. Clarity is power. I'm going to carry that with me. Insurance companies. I'm going to talk about insurance companies today. I got a lot of things I'd like to share with you. I want to tell everybody that the Trump Parade and Revival, October 26th, is up in Cincinnati. There's a Facebook page. I'll get you some more details. Today in history, some fun stuff and sad stuff. Maria Antoinette, wife of Louis XVI, was guillotined as part of the French Revolution. Those of you that do not know your history well, I will tell you a little anecdote of history that is pretty darn interesting. The French came to our assistance and became our ally and helped us to defeat, in many ways, England. They spent so much money helping us that Louis XVI bankrupted his country helping us, which led to the French Revolution. I mean, you could blame America for the French Revolution and King Louis and Maria Antoinette losing her head. This is a sad story. Margaret Sanger founded Planned Parenthood by opening the first U.S. birth control clinic in 1916. And the rest is history there. All the babies that have died thanks to Margaret Sanger. Million Man March occurred in Washington, D.C. in 1995. And John Brown led a raid in Harper's Ferry and famously was put down by, you guessed it, Robert E. Lee. All right, let's talk some politics before we dive into the law. I think I'll do politics first. I reported some of these stories on my show where I go through the news, but I want to dig into them a little bit. And I've highlighted the ones I want to talk about. Joy, you wonder why the mass media is just where they are today. Joy Reid, the black MSNBC or CNN, I always forget who she belongs to, I don't care, said that the entire Trump movement is white men being fascists. She called every white man who supports Trump a fascist. Can you imagine that? You wonder why they're losing? All right, Tim Walz was picked now. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz is a train wreck. And nobody talks about this. When she picked Tim Walz, she wanted to have this guy that could maybe help her with the Midwest, Michigan, so forth and so on. And nobody talks about this. I'll guarantee you when they were vetting Tim Walz, he told them that his military career issue had already been used in the governor's races and it never went anywhere. Well, that's not the case. Minnesota media said on that. So that did not get the airing that it's gotten in the presidential election. So then you have him acting like he's Joe Blow Hunter out there with a shotgun this past weekend. He screws that up. Then when he does a debate, he says he's a knucklehead. I mean, you talk about crashing and burning as your running mate. Contrast that with J.D. Vance, who kicked ass in a debate and goes out there and articulates the Trump policies very well, answers any and all questions, and elevates the Trump campaign. Trump's choice gets better and better every day. Kamala's worse and worse. It's been reported that drones are flying around our military bases, and the military reported that there's nothing they can do about it. Can you imagine? That would never happen under a Trump Defense Department. What do you mean there's nothing? You mean to tell me there's not a way to knock out drones either through weaponry or tech? Give me a break. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's been reported that most Americans, not most, most would be a majority. 40% of Americans, 40% are walking around with less than $50 in their bank account at most times. That's incredible to me. Think about, by the way, I know how it feels. I've been walking around with no money in my bank account before. 40%, think about that as a voting group, how powerful that is. There's no way they're answering the question they're better off than they were 4 years ago. And coupled with that, business bankruptcies are way up in 2024. Also on the political front, I find this comical. You know, Jill Biden has to hate Kamala Harris because Joe hasn't talked to Nancy Pelosi, according to Nancy Pelosi, since the coup. You know, if they're not talking, that means he's not happy about what happened with the coup. Plain and simple. So you've got the coup going on, and Nancy Pelosi not talking to Joe. You know Jill doesn't. So Jill's going out in the campaign. It's just putting up appearances. But Michelle Obama hasn't campaigned at all. And you're not going to tell me that there's something that rubs her the wrong way about Kamala Harris. Probably involves Barack. Trump is now the betting favorite, folks. The betting favorite. And if you're the betting favorite, that's apparently a bigger deal than winning the polls. Now let's talk some law. I told you I'm going to cover a lot of law on this show that nobody else covers. Insurance companies. Let's start with the basics. I'll be Captain Obvious here. Insurance, whether it's home, auto, life, whatever it is homeowners, it is to protect you from unexpected or expected harm and damage. It is the classic necessary evil. In Florida, insurance is so high for homeowners that you can't really get it, and there's less and less insurance companies offering it. I understand some of it you have to go through the state. And then here's what they did. The homeowners insurance, which, by the way, is 3 times higher than any place else in the country in Florida, with homeowners, they don't cover flooding, but they'll cover hurricane. But you know what the adjusters then say? Your damage was caused by the flooding, not the hurricane. And it's a nightmare. I know some people. Then some individuals decide to go without insurance because it costs so much. I know somebody who's lost 2 houses that were uninsured. So you're dealing with that. But I'm just giving you a backdrop of that, what's going on in Florida. But I've been in the law business for 40 years. Actually, even longer than 40 years if you count my law clerk. I've been in law business for 45 years. And I've been on both sides of insurance claims. I once represented insurance companies early on for a few years in my career. And then I've been suing insurance companies. Insurance, I have never known ever an insurance company to ever write a check unless they had to. That's the way they go. Now, had to might be in their best interest, but insurance companies are such a necessary evil. And I know many of you might be an insurance adjuster. Many of you might be insurance agents. Many of you might work for an insurance company. But I'm telling you right now, they are a necessary evil. There is nothing good about an insurance company except if you need them, then you're like, oh, well, I'm glad I had that. And let's face it, usually you don't. And insurance companies always, they have actuaries, they do algorithms, they do tests. They never insure something except if it's going to be in their best probability to insure them. But I'm telling you, insurance companies just suck. They do. Now, I'm going to cover a pet peeve of mine, and I threatened to blow him up, and I said I'm not going to do it now, but I told him I was going to. But this really gets to me. We are now in an economy and in a society, and I mentioned this a little bit yesterday, where you have to have a credit card or you have to have a telephone. But this is a real pet peeve of mine. The credit card on file, Netflix, Apple, whatever it is, that credit card on file. Now, if you're the business person, it's obvious you want the credit card on file because you're going to bill and get paid on time every month. I understand that. But here is what I want to explain to you and speak to you about if you haven't thought about it already. And if you already know about it, well, I'm just going to reinforce it. What I hate about it is this. You lose complete control over the payment of that bill. And when you lose control over the payment of that bill, games can start being played. You get billed for things that you didn't mean to pay for. And I know a lot of you check your credit card statements with a fine-tooth comb. I'm sorry, I'm one that doesn't. Right or wrong, I don't. Now, my secretary does. But, I just don't. I just don't. I just don't. Right or wrong. But I believe that they play lots of games. And lately, I've actually been looking at my credit card because I'm waiting to pounce. I'm waiting to pounce on MasterCard, Visa, American Express, a company, a bank, an insurance company, where they do massive fraud with their quote-unquote credit cards on files. I guarantee you it's happening right now someplace, somewhere. And if you know about it, I want you to report it to me. Eric at ericdeters.com or text me at 859-250-2527. And then if something goes wrong with the service, you have less options and you lose the best option to not pay them by saying, well, I'm not going to pay you till this is fixed. They'll charge your credit card. Now, you can cancel your credit card on file, and that's one way you can control it. But I'm telling you, folks, that really sucks, doesn't it? You lose control. Another thing I want to cover, hospital advertising. I'm 61 years old. I know I look 40, but I'm 61. So when I grew up, you went to the doctor and you went to the hospital when you needed them. There wasn't advertising for hospitals. There wasn't advertising for doctors. There wasn't advertising for pharmaceutical drugs either. We now live in a time of for-profit corporate health care. And what's wild is our nonprofit community hospitals, they're doing it too. I receive every week postcards, and there's advertisements on TV, and there's newspaper ads. Is your knee hurt? Please contact us. Do you have a sore back? The solicitation for healthcare, and we all know once they get you, they go to work on you. They refer you to physical therapy. They do some radiology tests. They bill you. And how about this? You have to go, everybody knows you need an MRI. You have to go to your primary care physician in person so they can enter the MRI. They can order the MRI, $200. I've covered that topic before. But this hospital advertising is way, way, way out of line. Somebody asked me about lie detectors. Lie detectors are very accurate. They're not admissible because they're not 100% accurate, but you can also beat them. And I'm going to tell you a little trick here, how you beat a cop. Why do I know this? Because somebody who gives lie detectors told me, because I asked him, how do you beat lie detectors? You can be trained to be calm so you never react. But here's how you beat a lie detector. You do a lie detector, and you have the lie detector test done over and over and over to where you don't react to that question. So if they said, Eric, did you kill Roger Kaufman in your studio? Just joking, Roger. And I said, no. Well, if I could say that, well, you mean use you as an example, Sabrina? We're just using an example here. My gosh. I didn't think Sabrina was woke. I think she might be woke. But if they ask you, did you kill Sabrina Cain in your studio 10 times, and you say no, after you keep saying that, after a while, it won't register. So the key to passing a lie detector's test is to get yourself a lie detector test and do it over and over again before you do it. By the way, I'm a firm believer, and this will happen, if you pass a lie detector's test, sometimes prosecutors and law enforcement will not continue the investigation against you. If you fail it, you're effed. What else do I want to cover in the law business here today? Some of you have been asking about this. I'm still waiting for somebody with a St. E's pension. They closed out their pension. Somebody will let me sue on behalf of you against St. E's. I'm still waiting. I've covered this before, doctors being bought. It's a sad day in the conflict when all the hospital organizations own the doctors, so the doctors lose their independence and they're forced to do those referrals. I'm also looking for doctors lying on the My Chart. Oh, and this just came up. I just found this out. This was big on a case that I found out. Hospitals, especially people using the Epic system, and St. E's does this a lot. I would love to get an insider of them modifying records. They claim they can't, but they do. And they do it all the time. What else do I want to cover on corporate health care? That's a whole show right there. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, the American Jerry and Bulldog Nation, that's going to be my show for today. As I dove into some politics and some law, I will be back next Monday for my next longer podcast, which I'm going to do live on Facebook, Twitter, and X, Monday through Wednesday, so I can talk and dive in a little more deep into some subject matters. It's always going to be life, politics, and law. This is the Bulldog. Every dog has their day. I hope you have a great day.